All right, so I will call to order the Thursday, March 4th, 2021 Policy and Education Subcommittee at 4:35. So the first item on our agenda is the approval of minutes from February 25th, 2021. If no one has any questions or comments, I would love to entertain a motion to approve these.
Just got a motion from Mr. Devon.
Second.
Thank you. All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Devon?
Aye.
Mr. Chafe?
Aye.
And I vote aye, so those are approved. The next item on our agenda is the consideration of second reading for the 21-22 school calendar. So I'm going to immediately pass the buck on that one to one of the people in ties over there.
All right, so this should look familiar. We talked about this last time. There have been no changes since our last meeting. I don't know if anyone has any questions, but if we can certainly try to answer any questions you might have. It's a pretty standard, regular looking calendar. We are anticipating a full return in our normal, as in quotations, way. And we are also, just in case anyone is listening in the public audience, we are, and I'll talk about this on Monday night at school committee. We've got a really good, solid number of kids who have registered for full day kindergarten. And we will be planning to return to a full day program or having a full day program as an option for families. And our numbers actually in the registration process look fairly normal compared to what we would see this time of year. And at this point, we're going to be able to announce on Monday night. Now, actually, I guess I'm announcing it now, that everyone who has registered for a full day kindergarten program will be able to get into full day K. So that's like the 5th year in a row that we've been able to say that. Where they go, but whether if they wanted to go to their home school, we have a couple of home schools that would not be able to, but there'll be a limit. We stay around 21 kids. So they might, we have to do a lottery at the home schools for those slots, but obviously they'll go to Manadequate. So everyone will be guaranteed a slot that has signed up, and information will be coming out on that next week to parents to begin payment. We have broken those payments out over a longer period of time to give parents a chance to get their money in over, I think our last payment, I believe, is going to be due in November. Generally, it's due in August. So information will be coming out on that next week. So again, pretty standard looking calendar. I would love it if we could bring this to the school committee at Monday night for a first reading.
I will make a motion to bring it to Monday's meeting.
So moved.
Want to second it, Mr. Devon? Or I'll second it. Can I second my own thing?
Probably shouldn't second your own motion.
I don't want to do it. No, I'll second it.
Thank you. All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Devon?
Aye.
Mr. Chafe?
Aye.
And I will vote aye, so we can bring that for discussion on Monday.
Okay, thank you.
The next item on our agenda is the distribution of the special education report.
So I promised you that you were going to get this last week, last time you met, and apparently I was not being honest with you because I forgot to send it out. So we are just considering this the distribution of this report tonight. It is now a public document for people who would like to see it. It's not my intention tonight to go through it. Obviously, it is. There are 2 reports. There's early elementary, and then there's elementary, and there's preschool, early elementary. So you can see, just kind of scanning through here on the left-hand side, there's a lot of information. I want to say a couple things. One, I want to just make sure people understand that this is a report, an assessment that we commissioned. We asked for a consulting group to come in and do this for us because we're trying to improve. It is not a typical kind of accountability report that we would get from the Department of Education when they come in and do program eval. There's a lot in here. There are a lot of commendations. There's a lot of recommendations. There are recommendations that we totally agree with. There are recommendations that we're not so sure we agree with. And then there's, in general, even with the recommendations, many of them have a dollar value to them that, we would have to really talk about from a budget perspective, but also just, this is to set up a multi-year plan. This is not something that we're going to be able to go through these recommendations and say, okay, we're going to do all this next year. Our goal is to now administratively look at this and say, what are those things that we agree with? What are those things that we want to do or feel we should do? How do we prioritize those? And how do we think about those over a course of maybe a 3 to 5 year period? So that's the work that will happen administratively. Candidly, we will not likely get to that until after we get through the full return of students that we're discussing at the larger level. But we will be able to kind of line it up some with our budget in case there's any considerations for next budget cycle. So in terms of really talking through any questions that you have or a high level presentation, my thinking is we would bring in some special education administrators to your next meeting that they could do that. So you'll have an opportunity now to spend time with this. If you have questions that you want to get to me ahead of time, I can forward those on to our administrators. And then at your next meeting, we can have a couple of administrators from special education come in and just kind of do a high level PowerPoint to kind of walk through, not the administrative action plan, but just to kind of walk through the actual report itself. So that's what we're looking at right now. If that makes sense to people, then we'll line that up.
Excuse me, Frank.
Yes, sir.
When you say the next meeting, are you talking on next policy subcommittee meeting or our next full committee meeting?
No, next policy subcommittee meeting. I think you want to have a couple of whacks at this before it goes to the full school committee, is my opinion.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. I don't need any action on this tonight.
I'm in agreement with that.
Okay. All right. So we'll slate it for next meeting.
Sounds good. The next item on our agenda is the continued review of MASC and other policies. So in our last meeting, we preliminarily, approved a bunch of them to go to Monday's school committee meeting. We now have a policy and education subcommittee first reading for a few more. So if there are any questions or discussion points about these, I would love to hear them. The only question I had is, and actually it's on this one that's in front of us, is the mention of a school physician. So I'm assuming that, that's obviously an option for us as a district, and some districts have them. I just sort of thought to myself, should this be more reflective of what we actually have? Or does having the word may cover off on us enough?
We do actually have an appointed school physician.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not, we don't contract. Well, we do kind of contract. I don't know if I'm not sure we actually contract them for services, but they cover us for certain things like potentially physicals and that kind of thing.
Oh, news to me.
Obviously, neither Jim nor I really have a lot of information on that.
I think we contract that element of it, but to your point, we do have a physician in town that does or assists us with physicals and things of that nature.
And you just said you don't know a ton about it, but I will ask anyways, who gets the physicals? Like, what is the purpose of school issued physicals, I guess, versus one's own doctor?
We will come back to you with information and more details on that position. And what
I don't feel so bad not knowing about it then.
No, I thank you for pointing it out.
And then the other one is, I wondered if we wanted to change registered nurse to director of nursing.
It's actually, we can, yes, but it's all of our nurses are registered. So you actually do, as a school committee under a statute, hire all nurses, not just the director of nursing.
Okay.
Those are your
appointments. Yeah, I think it would be good. Maybe we can add director of nursing and then registered nurses.
Okay. Yep.
But those were my only comments on the ones that were included. So today is Thursday, so it's probably too late, I presume, to get these on the agenda for Monday, or no?
We put them on the agenda for Monday in anticipation that you might
perfect.
move forward as a first reading, and you just table them if you don't.
Oh, smart. Excellent. Okay.
The first rodeo.
Cool. So then do we need to, if it's already on the agenda, do we need to make a motion to bring them?
I think it's always good for the subcommittee to bring them for first reading, to take that vote.
Okay, so I'll make that motion that we're going to take these policies for a vote, or for a first reading rather, at our next school committee meeting.
Second,
So we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Devon,
Aye.
Mr. Chafe,
aye.
and I will vote aye. That was a quick one.
It was a quick one.
Do we want to pick a date here and now, or sort of work it out offline?
If you don't mind, if we could work it out offline, I'm trying to pull together finance and operations for next Wednesday. But there's, I know that the chair of that subcommittee is looking to get some town representatives at that meeting. So there's a little bit more coordination of the date and the time. So, so if we could hold until we nail that down, but I'm sure we can figure out a time for next week.
Okay, sure, that sounds great. Yeah, once that falls into place, then we can set this up.
Excuse me, Frank. No,
Yes.
Jen, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Would that give enough time for you to have the special education representatives? Is that giving them enough time and notice?
I think so. That's a great question. Thank you. Yes, I think so. I mean, they've been picking this thing apart now for a while. So they won't have any problem putting together a high level presentation. And, you know, generally their availability is pretty good. So
I just didn't want to rush them.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Roll call vote, Mr. Devon,
Aye.
Mr. Chafe,
aye.
and I will vote aye. So we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
You still there, Frank?